Hi, I'm George Woodbury from College of the Sequoias in Visalia, California, and in this video we're going to talk about how to find the domain and range of a relation or a function from its graph. Remember, in the last video we talked about domain. Those are the set of the input values. Those are measured as x values, and the range, those are output values or y values. We're going to use interval notation, by the way, for all of these domains and ranges. So for the first one, on your worksheet, you may not see the arrows because I didn't put them there, but I drew them to indicate that the graph continues on down to the left and up to the right forever. And when we see an arrow on the left-hand side for the domain, that means that it goes to negative infinity. It keeps getting more and more negative. We can keep moving to the left. The arrow on the right tells us that it continues on to the right forever as well, so that heads to positive infinity. The domain here is the set of all real numbers, which in interval notation we write as parentheses, negative infinity, comma, infinity, parentheses. But again, that is the set of all real numbers. And when we see that, that means there's no restrictions on the domain. Any value of x is in the domain of this function. For the range, we measure that from bottom to top. Domain, let me write that down. We go from left to right. Range goes from the bottom to the top. So because there's an arrow on the bottom, that means that y heads towards negative infinity, and the arrow on the top goes to positive infinity. So this is all real numbers as well. And if you have a line that's not horizontal or vertical, then the domain and range of that equation or that function, we'll see in the next section, is going to be the set of all real numbers in both cases. In part B, we've got this shape called an ellipse, and for the domain, we want to think about what's the lowest x value that it takes on. And if we zoom in here, we can see that for x, the lowest it goes is -2. That's the furthest to the left that we get. And +2 on the right. So the domain is going to be square bracket -2, comma 2 with a square bracket. We use the square bracket because it actually touches that value. And we go from min to max, from left to right, -2 to 2. For y, we're still reading this from the bottom to the top, and that's the range. And how low does it go? It goes down to -7, and it goes up to +7. So the range would be square brackets, -7, comma 7, square bracket. One last one to go. This shape is a parabola, and it has an arrow on the left and an arrow on the right, indicating that the domain goes from negative infinity to infinity, or all real numbers. There's an arrow on the left and the right, so that means that it covers all the x values. Now, for the range, that's not quite the case here, because when we read this from the bottom to the top, how low does this go? This goes down to a height of 4. So on the low end, we have bracket 4, and then because we have an arrow, and actually 2 of them pointing upwards, the range goes through infinity. So 4 comma infinity, including the 4. All right, hope that helps you with finding domain and range from a graph.